Welcome to Bear With Us, the podcast where two women bravely explore the High Line.
One charming town and quirky event at a time.
We're here for the people, the stories, and the small moments that make this place special.
And don't worry, zero bears.
Probably.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bear With Us, a podcast from Bear Paw Development, where we get to share the stories of the people and projects that make our region such a unique place. I'm Julia.
And I'm Sara. And today we're especially excited because we get to talk with someone who's been bringing incredible theater to North Central Montana for years.
That's right. We're joined by Jay Pyette, Executive Director of the Montana Actors Theater. And not only has Jay directed and produced countless shows here at home, but he's also a playwright. And now one of his plays, The Harvest, is about to make its debut in New York City.
Jay, thanks so much for being here. We're thrilled to have you on Bear With Us.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Now, before we get too far into this very exciting project you've got coming up, we have probably the most important question for you.
Sure.
Which would be more challenging, directing a cast of bears or performing for an audience of bears?
Well, I think it'd be more challenging to perform for the audience of bears. Because I don't know if you've ever been around actors, but I think, bears would be just a cakewalk compared to that. So
The circus trains them, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
surely you could get them
yeah,
to dance at your will.
Dance. You could at least do a musical.
unlike actors who won't
Right.
dance
Yeah.
at our will. Yeah.
You're right. If an audience of bears dislikes a scene,
They'd really be the ultimate critic when you think about it.
They're not throwing tomatoes, they're throwing claws.
Yeah. That's very true.
I love it. Okay, so when people hear your name, they think of theater. But before we get there, we want to know your whole backstory. So where are you from? Where did you grow up? Tell us all about you.
Grew up in Chinook, 20 miles down the road. And we didn't really have a lot of, probably going to surprise you, but there wasn't a lot of theater in Chinook back in the early 80s. And
We wouldn't know.
I wasn't there.
ouch.
I was close.
I was told this wasn't going to be like Between Two Ferns. Yeah, we did a couple of school plays, but there was a competitive speech and drama team, and I got involved with that, and was in it for 4 years and really enjoyed it. So when I went to school at Northern and started in with my BA, I found out that most of the English majors were hanging out down in the theater, which I didn't even know existed at that time. And so I started hanging out down there. And after a couple of shows, I was like, okay, I need to be involved in this, and got involved. And then I guess, as they say, the rest is history. Went to did my master's at the University of Oregon, and then came back here, and we've been doing MAT ever since.
That's amazing.
Now, you might be our first guest that doesn't have any skin in the game, but we're going to need to know where your allegiance lies because we are a podcast divided when it comes to Montana schools. So, are you going with the Bear With Us theme and you're a Grizz fan? Or are you
a good person and a Bobcat fan?
Well, I hate to say this, but I've always been a Grizz.
There it is.
There
I'm
you go.
married to a Cat fan.
There you go.
So what do you do?
I'm beating you on this tally of Grizz versus Cat.
I'm for the Northern Lights, you guys. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and they're technically a part of the Bobcat family.
Ouch.
So you got your master's from Oregon?
Yes.
What was that in?
Theater arts with an emphasis in Shakespeare.
And then where did you go after that?
I studied in London for about a year as part of that program, and then finished it up, and then actually came back to Havre. Well, I didn't come immediately back. We with a couple of my fellow master's graduates, we formed what was called the Northwest Ensemble Theater, and we were primarily going to be just in the Eugene, Portland area. But like most startup theater companies, we didn't have any money, we didn't have a space, we didn't have any people, we had no resources. Optimism. We had a lot of optimism. And so we staged our first show actually here. I'd come back for the summer, and we staged it here. I moved back out to Oregon, and we worked a couple of shows, some built our first set out of cardboard, great stuff, but, very fond memories. And that's where, that gritty, just by the seat of your pants theater is awesome stuff. And It took about a year before I realized that we probably weren't going to get anywhere. Uh, uh, Came
You
back
gotta
here.
eat.
Yeah, gotta eat. Came back here and did a couple of shows under the Northwest Ensemble name, but then we switched it over to Montana Actors Theater, more representative of here and of the people who were involved, which at that time there were only about 4 of us. And then, it took a few shows, but it just took off.
That's awesome. And we're going to talk more about Montana Actors Theater a little bit further in. I want to jump back into your childhood. So, what are some of your like strongest memories of growing up on the High Line?
The Highlands is an awesome place to grow up because, I grew up in a very small town. We were just kind of on the edge of town, just a little bit out of town. Um, and I can look back now, and I graduated with a class of 40, and I still know where everyone is, and I'm still really good friends with all of them. And so I think this region breeds that kind of, companionship, loyalty to friends, um, and not just within your own little community, but I have friends, lifelong friends from Big Sandy and Rudyard and Malta, all the other small communities. Now, all of us who were growing up on those Highline small communities looked at Havre and went, you big city kids, I don't know.
Yes, the huge city of Havre. So, how did that really shape like your whole outlook on life growing up in small town rural America?
Well, for one, I think it gives you a really strong sense of work ethic, and just that ability, which everybody who gets involved in theater, because it has been such a part of my life, especially on the community theater level, you need to know how to do everything. You don't have the luxury of having somebody who's going to be able to do this and somebody else who's going to be able to do that, and at least not in those beginning years. And so you better be able to do it all. And I think growing up in a small community or a Montana community, any of them for that, you learn that. You learn how to be able to do so many different things.
Yeah, I feel like that's been a very common theme in a lot of our episodes that we've done and with all the people that we've talked to is so many people wear so many different hats. And I feel like that is just such a talent and definitely something that comes from being in that small
I
community.
think it comes from necessity,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
it turns into something it's quite useful and, and applicable to a lot of
Yeah.
different avenues. I do have to bring up though, because you two both went to high school on the High Line. I did not. However, I do get to join this weird club um, of the strange high school mascots. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
you were a
Chinook's
sugar
mascot is
beater, right?
fine.
Blue ponies, also quite strange. And even though I went to school in Illinois, I think we take the cake for Illinois strange mascots because I am a green wave.
Awesome.
Yes.
What is a green wave?
Well, when you live in corn country, it's when the fields of corn blow in the wind. It looks like a green wave. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your mascot?
Well,
A
we
piece of
didn't have
corn?
one.
Oh my
Corn?
god.
No, it was literally like an ocean wave that was green and yellow. Um, but no sense.
That is
And
hilarious.
Chinook used to be the Chinook Tigers. That's what they started
Oh, I
out
didn't know
as.
that.
Yeah,
oh,
they
I
were
didn't know that.
originally the Chinook Tigers, and that's where the black and orange comes from.
Oh, that
Oh.
makes sense. I
And
always wondered how you guys got that for
and
sugar
then
beaters.
when the sugar beet factory, which was, the major industry for, so long, bought the uniforms for I think the basketball team and one year way back, they renamed it to the Chinook Sugar Beaters.
Oh,
Wow.
Black and
neat.
orange stuck.
That's crazy. I had no idea. Also, I have to say, I am so glad that sugar beet I mean, I know it was such a big part of Chinook having sugar beets, and having the factory, but the smell of sugar beets makes me want to puke. Growing
I
up
grew up
in
near a soybean processing
Ew.
plant, so you had to hold your breath crossing that bridge.
Yikes. I lived in Wyoming when I was a kid, and there was sugar beets everywhere.
Ugh.
They stink.
Now we did a little digging, and we happen to know that you did spend many years as an educator.
Yeah, I did digging too. I
Yeah, you're
definitely
like,
didn't know that. You
uh,
were not one of my teachers.
no,
Yes.
because I'm not old enough
It
to be
was
one of these teachers.
extensive. I think Julia had to do a very she had to pay for some background
Yeah, I
checks.
did.
She's like,
I had to think back in my memory and talk to my husband because we were both in your Shakespeare class at the same time.
I don't know what she's talking about.
So, how did you get into teaching?
It goes back to a statement that Sarah just made a little while ago. You have to eat. moving back and starting a theater company, doesn't exactly pay very well.
Didn't pay the bills.
So
So you went into the lucrative field of teaching.
teaching, yes, raking in the big bucks.
You don't like money, do you?
No. And so,
Eat canned beans.
the selling point of the job at Havre High was simply that I got to run the theater program there as well. And I mean, yes, I would have taken it anyway because I had to. But taking that job and running that theater honestly probably did as much to form me as a theater person as all of my education ever did. Because again, it's that you're just kind of thrown into the fire and you do by necessity and you better figure it out. Now I had a fantastic mentor in John Musgrove. I worked for him. He had been there for 30 years as the theater teacher. And I worked with him for 3 years before he retired, and learned so much. Um, but you're just doing that high school theater with those resources, and you do have some advantages, and you've got that great big stage and a scene shop, and you got all those students who are eager to do things. So you do them, and you really learn a lot.
And you built such a great program. I mean, it was notorious, I think, throughout the state. And so many students went through that program. I feel like you touched so many lives uh, through your years at Havre High School. What was the most rewarding thing working there?
Really, honestly, there's so many people who were students in the theater program who have gone off and they're doing professional theater, or they're still actively involved in theater. And I mean, that's one of the probably most rewarding things, and I'm working with a lot of those people still, and that's just really fulfilling to know that that passion that you have, contagious, I guess.
Absolutely.
Now you were at more places than just Havre High, right?
No,
No?
no, I student taught in Rudyard.
That's what okay. Because I could have sworn my spousal unit had mentioned that. I don't know if you guys, was he a student when you were a student teacher there?
Sarah, again, that's not possible. I'm
He's so
only I'm
young.
only 24
Oh,
years
that's
old,
true.
so I don't know how that would
And my
happen.
husband's old.
Yeah, he is.
So old.
I know. Goodness. I thought that there was some connection
No, I
there,
don't.
but
I don't think he was a student there then. But obviously, he knew that I'd been there, and
well, because there's a total of approximately like 8 people in Rudyard, so
yeah.
that's
Oh, well, yeah.
4 of which are my family.
Yeah.
But in a great place and a great bowling alley.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's transition and talk a little bit about Montana Actors Theater, because that is just huge up here. It has grown into something that, I mean, it's date night for so many people here to go see a show, hit dinner, go to a show, things like that. So you mentioned that you had that troupe of sorts that you brought from Oregon. Was that
Well,
the
no,
sort
that
of-
was just me. The others actually never
They never came up
you know,
here.
they didn't relocate to Montana. One of them is still teaching. He's a college professor on the East Coast, and the other person I don't know. Last I'd heard she was in New York, but I don't know.
Wow.
But not doing theater. So
you carried the torch here?
yeah, I guess.
Who did you get involved to begin with?
Um, at the very beginning, I worked with a guy named Jimmy Winters. Jimmy's in Great Falls now, but he and I were doing we were basically the only 2 actors, and so we did a lot of 2-man shows. We built we built our first set in my dad's garage. My dad was a contractor in Chinook, and we built our first set there with construction materials that we liberated from his
Liberated.
stockpile.
Salvaged, if you will.
I don't think he looked at it that way.
What were the audiences like in the very beginning?
Well, as you can imagine, small, but we first did a show which we've done multiple times over the years, called Greater Tuna, and it was a really funny show, just a 2-man show. And so, first time we did it in the sub ballroom, because of course we weren't in the theater yet. We didn't have a space, and we were sponsored, I guess, by the Havre JCs at the time, and so we had a little bit of a following there, or they had a following, so that brought some people in. And then we shifted over. Our next show was Greater Tuna and a show called The Business of Murder, which was a murder mystery. We did those in rep. Show number 2, let's run rep. And And we actually went up on Havre High Stage. I wasn't working there or anything yet, and ran for a week or so. And, we were getting, 20, 25 people, but it was great. It was a good place to start.
Yeah, that's so exciting. So, how did you recruit people from there?
As people got interested, little bits at a time, people here and there, that was great, and we kept doing a few shows, and then, we did, The Dead of Winter, which was another one that I wrote, and, it had a cast of at that time, a cast of, like, 20, and so we got when you can put 20 people in a cast, then attract a whole bunch of their family to come see the show, and we just started building from there. But after that show, most of the people who were in it stuck. And so and many of them are still involved today. And that was really the really first kickoff to building the company.
Was that kind of the turning point where you were like, "Wow, this might actually work?"
It was in so many ways, yeah. Um, and, a lot of it was just audacious. It's like still young enough to not know any better. I mean, I think it was like our, fifth show. We're like, "Hey, let's do Hamlet."
That's that's rough.
We can handle this.
Yeah, we did. It was a fantastic show. Not only did we say, "Let's do Hamlet," we said, "And let's do it in the round on the Havre High stage. So let's build really steep rake seating all the way up on both sides and put a great big plank floor in," and we did.
That's something I've always loved about you, that you just kinda say, "Oh, let's just try it. Let's just go for it."
What's the worst that can happen?
Go big or go home. My favorite, memory of doing theater at Havre High with you is when we were doing, Starlight Express, and Jay built these, big platforms that went out in the middle of the audience. They went from the stage out into the middle of the audience, and we were all on roller skating down these platforms, and, you would take them down at night so that the, administration wouldn't see them.
I was gonna say, how did you get away with this?
Just until it was too late. And finally, we put them back in fairly permanently. It was too late to get rid of the show at that point. Brought the superintendent in. Caveat on this: it was my last year, so I knew
Oh,
they
what were
were
they
gonna
gonna
fire me.
do?
Yeah, and actually, the superintendent at the time just said, "Are you? I mean, are you trying to kill me?"
Or a student for that matter.
None of us died, it's fine. We almost broke a lot of limbs, but
Well, I was
everyone
gonna
is
say,
fine.
I'm gonna echo back to our last episode where we mentioned how clumsy you are. So the fact that you allowed this girl to be on any sort of roller
Hey,
Yeah,
apparatus
she was
sounds
awesome.
horrifying.
again, I can cartwheel on a balance beam, I can't walk in a straight line.
Yeah.
It's roller skating, it's different.
Terrifying.
I do love the, act now, apologize later. It's worked quite
Ask
well.
for
Yes,
forgiveness
yep,
instead of
yep,
permission.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. So, what's been the hardest part of keeping MAT going?
We are so fortunate in the number of volunteers that we have. I mean, at one time, I think it was last season, the season before, we did kind of a count. We had, like, I think we had 4 shows in rehearsal at one time because someone started, and we had about 110 people rehearsing, which is insane in a community this size. And actors are sometimes hard to come by, sometimes, not as bad as you would think, but it's all those other people, that challenge of all the other volunteers that are needed, because an organization like ours can't survive without volunteer help. There's just no way. There's just but there's so much to do. And I think, a lot of people don't realize how much time goes in before the show ever even thinks about being before an audience. And then there's all the other logistical stuff, clean up afterwards and taking the set down again and putting all the props away and all that stuff. There's just everything takes resources. And
Well, then
so,
you've got lighting and sound and,
oh yeah,
people that yeah, they have to know how to do that. So
somebody has to go out and hang the posters up, right?
yep.
Yep.
You know?
That alone is
Yeah.
so difficult to find. You wouldn't think that'd be a hard job, but it is.
Thank God for social media now. That
Yeah,
helps, definitely.
absolutely. And then someone has to take the tickets, and someone has to build the set, and someone has to help stage manage, someone has to do the costumes.
Someone has to run the bar.
Exactly. The bar is
Well,
the most important part.
there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many logistical things that have to go into that. Um, when I guess with MAT, when did that become apparent that you were like, "Oh man, we're gonna need a lot more help here"?
I think after we moved into the university theater, but moving in there was such a dramatic shift for our company in the sense that we finally had a home. and the university has been fantastic to us. I mean, and I think it's a really good reciprocal, uh, relationship that we have with them in the sense that they provide so much for us and they give us a home, but we serve the students well. We create constant traffic up there. We're always bringing a new group of people up and onto campus and into that university. Um, and we've just had just a great relationship.
And don't some of the students kind of help out with set design too,
They do.
or set
We
building?
set building. Yeah,
Set building.
we have a class. Yeah, just it's a 100 level humanities class. But yeah, they come in and they build sets. It's been there for, I think this is our 18th year offering the class.
It's handy and it
Oh, it's a
teaches
win-win.
them some skills. I mean,
It's a win-win-win, actually. It's a win for the university because they're able to offer this class. It's a win for us because we have people who help build. And it's a win for the students because they learn something, a process that they've never experienced before.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating process to get a set built. It's not like building a house, that's for sure.
No, it would drive, real carpenters crazy. We always everything that we build only has to look good from one side and 12 feet away, and it only has to last for a month.
is it the right way? No. Can you tell? No.
You can be amazed what you can build with masking tape.
This is true. Masking tape and paint. That'll get you through anything. So, MAT is now a nonprofit, is that
Oh, yeah, we've
correct?
been a nonprofit for 20 some years.
Amazing. So you have a board,
Yep.
and what does that consist of? Or what types of people does that consist of?
We've got a fantastic board. Our chairman, Paul Tusby, you guys might be familiar with him.
Paul
I don't know
I've
if you
heard of
see him
him.
around here much,
Yeah.
Doesn't
but
ring a bell.
yeah,
No.
he's a pretty good guy. Yeah. So, so chairman, and then our vice is Arlene Rice, and then our the treasurer is Lindsay Callum, and she's been on for years and years and years. She joined saying she was only going to do it for a year or two, looking for something to do, and we just have never let her leave. And
Famous last words.
Lindsay,
That
if you're listening, you're still not going anywhere.
that is the best way.
Yep.
Trick him into getting on the board by saying, "It's just short time, short time."
And then
It'll
we've
be
got
years
other
later.
people. We've got a board member from the university, one from the hospital. Just we try to have a board that is interested in the arts, but they're not necessarily involved, at least in the theater. We need business-minded people. We need people, like so many theaters and we started this way too and changed. Their board is made up of people who are involved in the company itself, actors, directors, and that just doesn't work.
I feel like, especially when you're trying to run something that does need to have a business side of it, you need the other side of the brain. And I don't know if you know artistic people, uh, they don't typically care about the money side.
See, this is why our podcast works.
Yeah.
Is you are a very creative individual, and I draw stick figures and bring the dry humor.
You
to
need both.
Yes.
You need both.
We together we make a full brain.
Exactly. Yeah, we have one brain at least. At least one
Some
brain
days.
cell. Yeah.
So this isn't between two ferns. I'm sitting with one fern.
Yes,
Yeah.
one
Your guys'
fern.
name is Fern.
On a
Yeah.
good day.
Yeah.
Yes. Sitting
Let me
next
emphasize.
to one brain. That's what our podcast should be called. Okay, so you guys don't just do theater. You do a lot of other things, or I guess you don't just do theater in the MAT theater. Can you tell us about what your year looks like?
Well, part of it, part of being successful is listening to what your public wants. And we found that our public has a real interest in live music. And so we've started doing some more live music events. We still, are the producer of them, but they're really popular. And they're popular not just with the audience, but with the musicians as well. Because to go listen to a live band around here, usually you have to go to a bar. And don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against a good bar. But a lot of people don't wanna do that, and plus a bar, has all the noise and all the chaos of a bar. We're providing that opportunity for musicians to have, like, a mini concert, an actual concert, and so, those have gotten to be really popular. We're doing a little bit of a variety show again this year just because people are really enjoying that, but we also, of course, we're teaching classes in there, and we're running, all our children's stuff. We've got all our youth programs going on. The Kids Met summer theater program just ended for this year.
And that's not just in Havre. You guys travel with that, don't
We
you?
do. We do. Historically, we have been all up and down the Highline.
How many, if you had to give us a roundabout number, how many young kids get to experience that every summer?
It's in the hundreds. I mean, which is, we do limit the camps. We try to cap them at like 20. That usually grows to about 24, or so. One year though, I mean, we learned our lesson one year because the popularity of the program grew. It was one of the first years actually when we'd had interns, and these poor interns just let everybody in, and they had all of a sudden had a camp of 70 kids.
What do you do with 70
I have a panic attack just listen. Like I can't handle my 2. So
Every kid got like one line.
that is 68 too many children.
And you'd still have a 3-hour production.
Well, they run on, say this and run off.
Right. Oh. Well, and you guys do things out in Beaver Creek Park too,
We do.
correct?
Yep, every summer we've now, which is another. It's a very typical MAT story. It started out we were going to do a summer show, which we were doing up on the campus. Then we got a bigger summer show, and then all of a sudden we were having a few people with crafts. And at one of our meetings, we said, "Okay, this is going great, but we are not going to blossom into a full-fledged Ren fair because we just don't have the resources for it." So now next will be our 4th year of a full-fledged Ren fair. Food vendors, dozens of vendors of different types of things, a full show, running the show multiple times. Yeah, every June out at the park.
And then every September, I only know it's in September because it happened the day I got married, is Death by Chocolate.
It's coming up on September 13th. It's not very far away. 3 weeks.
And that is, I mean, one of the biggest events of the year, not just for MAT, but for our community.
Yeah.
That's a coveted event.
I've never been able to go.
You've never been able to go?
What are you doing
no.
on September 13th?
Well, September 15th, I was a little busy, but every year my
Oh, this
husband
year, what are you doing
coaches-
on the 13th?
I have children. My husband coaches football, so I'm a single parent during football season.
I was going to say I'd take your children, but
No,
I'm
I'm a little
helping
busy
with
that day
food.
too.
Yeah, for that event. It's an amazing event attended by so many people. How many people can you hold at the event now?
Close to 400.
Wow.
Per capita for this area,
That's pretty.
big.
That's probably the most we could get in there, and we've had really close to that. We try not to push it quite that far, just because it gets a little congested. But that event started in the student union building again in the ballroom, and finally had to move from there just simply because we couldn't fit all the people. And
Yeah.
so St. Jude's has been fantastic to work with. They are just wonderful, and the gym works well. They're very accommodating.
Yeah, that is such a cool event and ran very smoothly for how huge it is and how drastically different it is every year.
It is very different, and it's going to be way different this year. So
Really?
anybody who's been in it anytime that we've changed it up a bit this year because I think change is good. You don't want to go to the same event over and over and over again. And we've always made it a bit different theme, different things that are happening in it. But this year, it's quite a bit different. We're really modeling it after. Well, we're really focusing on Manhattan instead of Death by Chocolate. DBC standing for Death by Chocolate. It is denim, black ties, and city lights. We're tying into the whole Manhattan theme. I mean, it's not the only theme of the night. There's lots of other things going on, but we are also really basing it on based like the Oscars. It's going to be a great big, glitzy award show kind of setup.
So for people that are going, what do they dress up as?
Anything they want because it's denim or black ties.
Oh, perfect.
Or you can wear
Canadian tuxedo?
and you can wear your Canadian tuxedo.
So if anybody listening wants to babysit my children so I can go to this event, leave a comment. To transition though into Manhattan, I think we really need to touch on the big reason why you're here today and something that Julie and I weirdly have like a connection to.
You do.
Yeah.
Do.
So I'm assuming that this has to be like a bucket list item in your life.
Yeah.
But one of your projects that you wrote is heading from the High Line to New York City.
Sure is. Yep. And we're going with it.
And you're going with it.
Tell us about it. What's the show called?
It's called The Harvest. It ran here, a few years ago, and this is, it's the same show, obviously, but a better version of it, cleaned up a bit. It went on to get produced by the Anaconda Ensemble Theater, and then after they did it, the Rooted Theater Company in Missoula did it. So I've had the opportunity to see a couple of other theater companies produce it, and which gave me, more feedback, more ideas, and then I spent probably a year cleaning the script up and just, um, changing things that just cleaning the script up basically. So now, then the process is basically you just start sending it out there. You get it out everywhere you can until it catches somebody else's eye, and it did.
And it's such a great show. My husband was in the original
Was.
running of it, and your brother
Yep. Was in
was
the
in the
original
original and is
and the New
going to
York
New York.
cast.
And Julie and I actually saw it together.
We
We
did.
took a little office trip to go
And
see.
and I cried. It was
It was
so good.
beautiful.
My husband came with us. He thought it was going to be a comedy.
Oops.
Did not.
He was severely wrong, and he was about crying in the show, and he's like, "Why did you bring me to this?" So good. So, obviously, you said that you have written a show previous to this. Is this your second show that you've written that's actually hit the stage?
No, so the first was Dead of Winter, which incidentally, we did take that show to London in 2003. Cast of 18 ran there for a month. Little different of scope though, in the fact that, uh, our artistic director, Grant Olson, was going to school there, and this was basically the culmination of his master's degree. So, it was a little bit different in that scope. Um And then, I have a comedy, a farce called Rug Burns, which we've taken around Montana a bit. You should have taken your husband to that one.
I know, yeah, I should. You guys have to do it again.
I did write the screenplay Rosaries, which a lot of people in town are familiar with because we filmed it here and half the town was in it. And so,
That'll do it.
when we screened it, we had huge audiences. And then I don't really I don't know, I cringe when I think I don't cringe because I actually enjoyed it, but I did write the touring show last year, the Queen of Hill County
Oh,
or Wayne
yeah.
County or
Oh,
whatever you wanna
yes.
call it, so, but The Harvest is definitely the one that, uh, you know,
It's your baby?
it's got feet, but it's
Yeah.
gonna
So, can you give us a little snapshot of what it's about?
I hope we don't all get s or you won't. Well, yeah, you will, it's your show, I hope I don't get sued for this, but it's everything Yellowstone's not. Yellowstone is this depiction of, rough and tumble of, "You don't like them, take them to the train station," stuff. I was gonna use a different word, but my little cheat sheet said I can't. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, um, it's real Montana families, farm families. But that being said, it's not just farm families. It's real Montana families. It's real families everywhere, honestly. It's about the dynamics of a family. It's aging parents, tough economics, how those siblings adapt not only to their new circumstances, but to each other and, past grievances and just working through all of that. And, we all have families and we all know that there's conflict at times.
Because we've kind of discussed this a little bit on this podcast even, how, you say Yellowstone, and again, my apologies to Kevin Costner, but that's not a representation of our area. That's not a representation of Highline and how we live and things like that. So, I think that's why when we watched it, like, it hit home a little bit more.
It
Like, it was
absolutely did. I feel like it really touches on those family relationships specifically and how difficult they are to maintain, but how important they are to us up here. I feel like it shows the grit of Montanans. It's something, that we've spoken many times about with the people on the High Line. They're tough people, and that makes for tough family situations.
but they're not immune to the hardships.
Yeah.
They're not immune to, like, everything that's being thrown our way, whether
Yeah.
that evolves over history too. And I don't know. I having married into an ag family too, you definitely see a lot of parallels. And you grew up in an ag family, didn't you?
Well, my dad was actually a contractor, did construction. I mean, very, very small company. It was just him and me a lot of the time. But of course, I grew up in Chinook. I spent countless hours of time on my friends' farms, and so yeah, there's a lot of that in this. There's a lot of those experiences that I had that are in this script. They're tools that you use.
What sparked this idea to write this show?
I mean, that's a hard question because a show always evolves. You know, every playwright writes differently, and the the original scene that I wrote is not the beginning one. I don't write in a chronological order of this happened, then this happened, then this happened. Um, Usually, I'll have some sort of idea about a conversation that's gonna happen or something. Um, and I don't know if how well you remember the show, but the Mickey Mom scene late at night was actually the first scene that I wrote, which makes really no sense in context of anything else in the play. Um, and it's obviously the first version of that is nowhere near what's in the show now, and then it just developed that. And then just, some things that were happening in my own life at the time started to filter into it. I mean, I've made no secret of the fact that the father who, you never see him in The Harvest, but he's very much a character in The Harvest. I mean, it was actually my dad, in so many ways. Not exactly like that, but in many facets, so, yeah. So you start filtering your own stuff in there too. The old adage of "You write what you know" holds true.
Absolutely.
And that nonlinear way of writing is actually really interesting to me. You said you started with that conversation, and really by starting with that, it does make sense because then you can set up the pretext as to, why that's happening based on, you really give more meat to what goes on before it because you know what you're wanting to convey in that moment.
Yeah, I've never thought about writing in that way. That's fascinating.
I'll be I go out to the pause a lot and walk, and as I'm doing that, I'm thinking about what I wanna trying to write and stuff, and I'll be like, "But there's not still nothing tying it all together, but there's, what am I driving at here? What's the end mean for this?" And I'll have those questions, and then one day it'll just bang, there it'll be. I was like, "Oh, there it is."
Comes together.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's so cool. So, going to New York, I guess, first of all, when are you guys heading?
So, we do the show here at the end of October, 23rd, 24th, 25, those dates. But yeah, we do the show here, and then we pack it up, and most of the cast will be flying out on November 1st, but there are several of us who are driving because we need to take the set.
Oof.
I'm
It's gonna be
assuming you are one of
Oh,
them.
yeah. Yep.
Oof.
Yep. There's several of us going. It'll be fine. It'll be fun, actually. And so, because we needed to take the set out. Um, and then we open on November 6th to what they're called press nights, and those run for whole first weekend and actually the next Wednesday. So we have 5, that'd be Thursday, Friday, yeah, 5 press nights, um, in which the critics are invited. We are working with a press representative out there. He's fantastic, and, getting, to get the critics in there. So those are the really crucial days right there.
Make it
Everybody's gotta
good.
be on their game
Yeah.
mode.
Yeah.
And then we open officially to the public on that. Well, the public is welcome to come to the press nights. In fact, we encourage them to. We would like,
Oh,
people in the
good.
seats during
You
those
don't
press
wanna
nights.
just hear pencils
Right,
going
yeah. We would really like people. Um, and then we, open that Thursday, and we run till the 23rd of November.
Wow.
Be back just in time for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I That is amazing. What has the process been like to get this going?
Well, it's really actually interesting how it happened because, like I said, I sent in the script out anywhere and everywhere that I could, and then caught the eye of the Manhattan Repertory Theater, and we started talking and came to an agreement about how it was going to be produced and everything. And originally, they were going to cast it, build it, and do the show. I mean, that was they're a producing agent. They don't have a space, so then you always have to rent a space and all this stuff, which in this case is the chain theater. And there's hundreds and hundreds of theater spaces. Um, but the more the conversation that we had, the more I realized that we were gonna be able to bring an authenticity to this show that they never could, that they would not be able to accomplish with I don't care how good of an actor you are, they're not gonna be able to achieve that. And the reality is that we've got caliber actors. We have got the actors needed for this. We have the quality. It took some convincing. It took, a little bit to get them to believe, and he did his research. He looked into us pretty heavily before he agreed. But then agreed that okay, we'll bring the show. And again, the idea was still that they were going to build it and we were going to come perform. And then we talked more, and finally I said, I think we need to build it here and bring it. Um, for a couple of reasons. First, because we're going to build it on our stage, but we're going to build it to the dimensions of the Shane Theater, obviously, so it fits.
Yeah.
Um,
That was a good idea.
we're building a replica of the Chain Theater's walls on our stage right now.
Oh my
So
goodness.
we have exactly what their room looks like.
Oh, I talked to Pam Weiss, who's in the show. She said there is like no backstage.
It's pretty small. We're going to be really comfortable. They're going to be really comfortable with each other. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I think a lot of people need to realize, is that, there are hundreds of theaters in New York. And so when we say we're going to New York, we're not going to the theater where Phantom of the Opera played, the 3,000 seat huge place. We're going to an off-Broadway small theater. They're all small.
They're packed in there like sardines.
Yeah, we're
It'll
going to
probably be comparable to the theater you guys are used to.
they seat 60. Chain Theater seats 65 people. That being said, the Chain Theater, that's their 65 seat room. There's a 40 seat theater in the same building, and there's a 110 seat theater in the same building. And there's three theaters in this one building, and it's one of hundreds of buildings of theaters. They're all over. And so I want everybody to know, I mean, we're not going into this 1,000 seat theater. It's a small venue. But that is off-Broadway theater.
But it's still, I mean, it's still bringing the message of what life is like out here.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to run for a full month.
Yeah, that's
I-
impressive.
I love that you're taking the set, because that's something that you have to do around Montana anyways.
Right. Mhm.
If you want to go perform in Missoula or in even Great Falls, you're picking your setup and you're moving with it and you're taking your actors.
And also, like you said, if they were to build it in New York, they would probably make it look like Yellowstone. Like, how do we make this look like a barn house?
Right?
Or
Oh,
something
they
like
would.
that.
They would. I mean, the reality is we all know what the inside of that house
Yeah.
looks like.
Yep.
That
Oh my
Montana
gosh.
farm.
When I saw that, I was like, I have seen that at people's
Like,
homes. They
Yeah.
had
There's
their
my grandmother's table. Like,
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And in a discussion I was having with the artistic director at Manhattan Rep like last week, we were talking about it some more, and just some logistics and stuff. And he said, the decision for us to bring it out there was actually the best one. He goes, because that set is for, at least for the New York audience, that set is another character basically.
oh,
And
absolutely.
that's what we want when they walk in and sit in that theater. We want them to look down and look at that and say, wow, that's a Montana farmhouse.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. That just kind of gives me chills. I know our boss, Paul Tuss, is gonna try and make it out to New York.
He's not bringing us.
I
though.
know.
He should bring us, and we
Rude.
should do an episode of Bear With
Oh,
Us.
I think so.
I
I
agree.
think so.
You know what? Let's everybody
demand.
listening. I'm going to need you to reach out to Paul Tess, Bear Paw Development. We'll put the phone number and his email in a link,
And letters. Write him letters.
and encourage him.
People
To
with
send the Bear
signs
With Us
outside the sidewalk of
Yes.
Bear Paw Development, bear signs.
Yeah,
Yes.
people
We'll
need
have
to know.
protests and everything. It needs to happen.
I am just floored and so excited for you. This is truly amazing. Are you dying of
Excited
excitement?
and terrified all at the same time.
Yeah.
It swaps.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout the day.
Yep. Moments of just watching, especially watching the actors right now, because we're already in rehearsals. We've been in rehearsals for almost 2 weeks now, which a 3-month rehearsal period is unheard of. Usually we go 6 weeks. And we're working every day. I mean, we work every day of the week. But watching them just really creates, I'm just one, blown away by their talent. And it's also a different one, because I mean, you've been around shows, you've been in shows, you know that there's often at the level of theater we do, there's always going to be that something that's not working right. I'm not worried about that. I have 8 professional quality actors. I have 0 worries about their abilities. And that is such a relief. I can't even express how easier that makes my job.
And they're all from the High Line originally.
Yep. Several have been in the show before and several haven't. So we have, hopefully I get this all right, but Grant Olson, Tylynn Turner, Pam Veese, and Island Pratt are all that's your baby brother, are all returning from the Havre cast.
And not all as the same characters
No,
even.
you're
Yeah.
the 3 are, but your brother's being switched to a different character, and he's knocking it out of the park so far. And then we've brought in Chad Zuelke, Samantha Pollington, and TC Knudsen as, they've not done the show before, but obviously we know the quality that they bring, and so they're gonna be fantastic. And then Brian Gregoire, who's originally from Havre, his family's here, but has been running the University of Montana scene shop for the last 15 years or so. But he played the part of Mickey in the Rooted Theater Company's production, and just was fantastic. So he's playing that part here as well. And
I am always amazed by the talent that is in Havre. I mean, you would never know it coming into town here. You would never come to town and think, "Oh, I bet there's just a great theater community." But there is. There's some phenomenal actors.
Arts in general.
Yeah, arts in
arts
general.
in general,
Yeah.
the music scene, the
Oh,
visual
yeah.
art. I mean, it's just amazing how much talent there
Yes.
is
Yeah.
where you don't really expect it.
And since you've had so many different roles with MAT, what's your favorite? Do you prefer writing? Do you prefer acting?
It's been an evolution. It's changed. I used to just thrive on directing. I loved to direct, and I am thriving on directing right now, but this is a whole different thing. But I kind of moved beyond that a little bit. It's nothing wrong with it. Nothing. It was me. I changed a little bit in that. Um, and I still love building, putting the sets, designing the sets, putting the set, building the sets, but that's an incredibly time-consuming process, and so I enjoy that still, but I don't do quite as much of it as I used to. I've always loved acting. There's just a real fulfilling thing about being an actor. I Until you do it, you'll never know. I mean, um, but again, I'm more selective in what I do there. I used to be I was in, like, every other show, now I do and we still have some of those acting junkies out there. I mean, it's just, I think this year, if you look back, you'd see that Mark Seahos was in, I think, in everything.
Every single show,
Yeah,
yeah.
um,
It's addicting.
yeah, it is. It
Can become
absolutely
very
is.
addicting.
But I'm really, the writing aspect of it, has really I'm going more and more that direction. Um,
Just fits you right now.
it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Why do you think theater matters so much to a place like Havre?
Oh, for so many reasons, but I mean, I think there's both an internal and an external answer to that. Externally, it matters to the people of the community because it's just like Sarah said, you have a date night, you have something else to do. Um, it's just provides a better quality of life. It, and it lets people see things that maybe they wouldn't get to see anywhere else. Especially when you have a company like ours that's willing to take on some things that are a little riskier sometimes. We do the big musicals, we do that, but we also do some edgier stuff. And yeah, quite honestly, there's a lot of people that really there's a lot of people who don't like them, but there's a lot of people who do. And so that just getting takes for our community, I think that's really it provides a better quality of life.
And it's
Internally, I'm sorry. Yeah.
well, and as somebody who didn't grow up here, and I'm from the outside, if you will. Um, this Highline area, there's a disconnect, I think, between the Highline and the whole big world out there sometimes. And um, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but like this kind of brings a little bit of
Big
a big
city.
city feel to a small community.
Mhm.
That's not something you get around here a lot.
Mm-mm.
I think the internal things for explanation is simply what it does for those who are involved. It gives so many people who don't have anywhere else to belong to because MIT is very accepting. Anybody and everybody will, and I said you get such a strange mixture of people in any one show, and they become friends. They're working on a common purpose. Sometimes when the show ends, they never see each other again, but sometimes they remain friends. And it's such a creative outlet. It's a lot of work. Those of us who've been to shows know it's such an immense amount of work, but it's so rewarding.
So, what advice would you give to someone in the Havre area who just dreams of being involved in theater?
Do it. Come try it. One, we always have opportunities. In fact, this Monday night we have our big company auditions for the first half of the season. Um, but just try it. Just give it a shot. Um, if you don't want to be on stage the first time, there's a zillion other things you could do, and you will always feel part of the entire production.
I definitely agree with that. I grew up doing theater, and I don't do as much anymore, but, um, I love what you said about, it really brings people together and, it takes a lot of work. Sometimes I feel like it's a little silly because you're playing pretend on a stage, right? When I take a step back, I'm like, "Wow, what are we doing here? We're just playing pretend, like, it's a
Right.
little silly." But you're really just world building. You're building your own safe world, you're building, something visual for people to look at, and then it just I don't know, you kinda feel like your own world maker, um, in a sense.
And going along that theme, for both the actors and the audience, it you may not have ever been to Denmark, but if you go to Hamlet, we as actors who are in that show feel like we have, and the audience got to experience some of that as well. It is a suspension of reality. You're taking your disbelief and setting it aside, and you're watching this and you buy into it. And I mean, I've experienced some amazing things in this life that I didn't actually really experience.
Experienced a lot of trauma that I didn't actually experience.
And some that I did.
Oh, yeah, I experienced some drama that's real.
But I think it's really nice though, to be able to go to Denmark. I'll probably never actually go to Denmark, and I feel like a lot of people still in Montana, even though travel is much more prevalent now, it's still not the easiest thing to get out of, the High Line, whether that be cost or time or, whatever it is. So it's nice to have that little escape, to just go to the theater and pretend like you're somewhere else for a while.
And I guess another piece of advice, maybe even I was really, you know, gearing that to people to be involved on stage, but just other people. If you've never been, just go to a show. I can't tell you how many times people have said, "Oh, I didn't, this whole theater thing, I didn't wanna go to that, but the wife made me, and, oh, I went now I'm going to everything." I've heard that so many times. People could try it the first time and go, Why didn't I do this before?"
Yeah. If you like movies, you'll like theater even
Yeah.
more.
We did that. My brother and sister and I went to Wicked in Chicago when I was younger, and my brother was like, "I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go to this." And we're like, "Just come, it'll be fun." And by intermission, he was like, "Where do they sell the CDs? Like, I wanna listen to them on the way home." And now he's been to, like, 5 musicals on Broadway. He, like, travels to New York
amazing.
just to go to these, and every single chance he gets, he goes to his local theater and does and, like, so many people around here that you would not expect
Oh,
are into it,
absolutely. Yeah.
and it really is like a centerpiece of the culture here.
Absolutely. So if you could go back, and talk to your younger self, what would you say?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Go back to talk to yourself when you started that little theater company called Montana Actors
I
Theater.
think have more faith earlier, like, take some of the risks earlier. I think that for so long time, you get in, especially in those very first years, you don't quite take the risks because there's so many things that could go wrong, and just dive in, and if things don't go as planned, that's okay.
Just pivot.
Adapt,
Don't
pivot.
don't second guess yourself though. Um, Fun last question here. What's your white whale? What's the one dream project that you would love to do?
Oh, boy. As an actor, I really, really wanna go be on stage at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. That's the place.
That would be
I mean,
cool.
what an insanely cool environment. Um,
Oregon Shakespeare Festival,
If you're
you heard it
listening
here
to
yeah,
first.
yeah,
Him and Kevin Costner are
Call 'em a
definitely
call
listening.
Jay up.
yeah. Uh, I will audition for them at some point.
Mhm.
That'd be
Because
awesome.
they get all those, young, really full of fire actors, but they need those older parts filled as well.
They need a seasoned.
Yeah.
To balance it out.
What's your dream project you would like to bring to the High Line?
For those who know me well, and even those who don't know me that well, know that Shakespeare's my first love. I mean, that is.
What?
Yeah, I know. I would like to present the entire War of the Roses. It's all the history plays, in one. I mean, if companies have done it, it's massive. It's 8 plays, but do the entire War of the Roses out at Beaver Creek Park.
Oh, my history degree just sighed a little happy sigh on
Yeah.
that one.
That would be amazing.
That would be a hefty undertaking.
Yeah.
After that, MAT would cease to exist because all of our spouses will have killed us. We buried out of the park
There's an
somewhere.
influx of divorce along the High Line.
It just states War of the Roses.
Oh, yeah.
War of the High Line.
I think the
we
judge
could do
would
War of the
understand.
Roses out there, and we could also film a reality TV series based on the staging of the War of the Roses,
At the same time.
like
Oh
a
my
dating show for all the newly single people.
Yes. This would bring a lot of industry to our area.
I think we need the secret lives of MAT wives.
It's all just anxiety medication.
Yeah, literally. We're keeping the therapists in business. Well, Jay, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a fantastic episode. We're so excited for the show. We're going to come at least to the one that's
Or you're
here.
coming
Yes.
to New York. You're
End
coming
of
to New York.
October. Everybody listening needs to go check this out the end of October here in Havre. And then feel free to Hester Paltas.
I see people gathering on the sidewalk out there right
Yeah.
now.
Oh, yeah,
with the
they're right
signs.
there.
We are
Yeah.
already gaining some traction, guys.
Yep.
Show up. Let him know. He needs to take Sarah and Julia to see this.
Oh, so
in
the
New York.
heck with the rest of the office.
Oh, the
now?
heck with the rest of them.
No, we've got a New York based episode.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. But we encourage people, come to New York. I know a lot of people who are already coming.
It's gonna be like every time a Montana team goes to the
Exactly.
Nationals for
Yeah.
football, and they're just gonna fill the entire theater with just Montana
folks.
people.
Yep.
The airlines are going to be like, what is happening?
Oh my goodness. Well, I love it so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as always, thanks for bearing with us.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I got that. That was bearing with us.